Okay, this is going to be a very tired rant. I'm just going to get that out of the way. I'm going to try and make it quick. I need to get all this crap out of my head because I've been dealing with it for a month and it is incredibly frustrating. And I don't want to come across like I'm hating Unraid. I think Unraid is still fucking cool, and I think that it can work really well if you have the right config and you have the right needs for it. I don't know if I'm just having the world's worst luck, or if Unraid just isn't the tool for what I want it to do. Maybe I don't. Maybe I kind of forgot that I want to maybe have this as just a server for my DaVinci Resolve, like Blackmagic Raw video projects. Who knows? So basically, originally, to wind back for people who haven't heard anything before, and will probably tune out of this fairly quickly, my previous server had tiered storage using stable bit drive pool in Windows. I had a nice 500 gig NVMe SSD, then a 500 gig SATA, then a 5 terabyte RAID 5 array of shucked shingle magnetic recording drives. That worked really nice. I can saturate my 10 gigabit network, no problems. And I thought, okay, I need a lot more storage space. I want to be able to flexibly expand, and I don't want to spend, $1,500 on used hard drives, because in Canada the prices even for used hard drives is awful, and the car that I'm currently driving, it was less than $1,500. It's a fucking piece of crap with the transmission that I need to deal with, but that's a whole other thing. So I don't have the budget to splurge on a bunch of nice fast drives or get a sponsorship because, I'm a nobody on YouTube. Western Digital isn't going to send me a bunch of hard drives, so I can't do ZFS, which is, really nice and snappy and all that sort of stuff. But again, I really like the idea of doing a slow expansion. But Unraid, it's been so fucking frustrating because I've been dealing with a month basically. So I want to preface, the first couple weeks basically were wasted because it turns out Unraid doesn't support SMB multi-channel with a single NIC. Now, I had 2 connections plugged in, and if I booted into Windows and made a share of my SSDs and, put that out over the network, I can get a gigabyte per second easy every single time crystal disk mark. No matter how many times I switch back and forth, Windows is perfectly reliable. It's great, except, it's no parity and stuff like that. If I switch back to Unraid, I get 300 to 500, maybe 600 megabytes a second as a cap at best. And it turns out that, Unraid doesn't support SMB multi-channel over a single NIC. One of the 2 transceivers that I had left was flaky. Just kept connecting and then disconnecting and wouldn't identify the network. So it turns out that that's why I was seeing such a huge difference in Windows from Unraid. I thought maybe it was like some weird driver thing or something to do with like how Windows is dealing with the SAS expander or something like that. I don't know. Super frustrating. And so there's a way to enable SMB multi-channel on a single NIC with Unraid, but that did not work for me because it just doesn't show up in PowerShell. It doesn't show up as under the SMB multi-channel connection command that I can't remember. I might throw some screenshots up here. Okay. So, whatever. I wait. It's going to take till the end of the month for some other stuff to arrive. Sure. The other thing is that I'm just having Mover move stuff from the cache to the array sub 1 megabyte a second. I put 1.45 terabytes of a mix of fairly large video and then a bunch of small pictures and things like that. Granted, I will admit one of the folders was called Possibly Corrupted because it had a bunch of possibly corrupted stuff from a drive that seemed to die, but I recovered, and I just never really had the time to go through and check, so I don't really 110% trust it. But, Mover, sub 1 megabyte a second. I switched to Dynamics File Manager, 40 to 60 megabytes a second, even peaking up to like 80 or something. That's fine. That's, turns out one of the 8 terabyte parity drives that I have is shingle magnetic recording. That's a bummer. But I think it's the one that I bought too recently. I don't know. I have to double check. But okay, sure, that's fine. For some reason, Mover sucks. Dynamics is fine. And apparently, Mover is supposed to write as fast as the array can write. And if it doesn't, you're probably the one who has something horribly misconfigured. That is, I don't think so, because I've had like the Unraid forum people like poking through my config multiple times to try and figure out the SMB multi-channel thing. Whatever. Not a concern right now. I figure, okay, sure, let's fire up a Windows VM. Maybe what I'll do, because StableBit Drive Pool will, instead of like Mover will do incremental checks. So you can do it like hourly, and then you can have it with Mover tuning, say, okay, if you've used this much of the cache drive, start moving folders or files that are older than X period off. And I think it's just kind of a blanket, or you can just say, once it fills to 75%, empty the whole thing. Drive Pool just seems nicer to me, and I wish there was like a StableBit Drive Pool thing natively for Unraid, because Drive Pool will just see you reach that threshold and immediately start moving stuff off on the back end, oldest stuff first, until you reach down to your empty threshold. So you can say, fill a drive up to 70%, empty it to 50%. So once you hit 70%, it will move the oldest stuff off until you reach 50% free. That's great. Drive Pool will also let me pin a folder to the SSD tier, like storage. That'll be great, so then anything I copy into that folder will stay there permanently, no matter what. And then if I want to move it, I just untick that, it will process it in the background. And if I want to promote a file back, it'll still be manual, but I can say, okay, only store this file on the faster tier, and then it will process that. It will be quite slow, but then it will move it over, which is kind of what I was hoping to do with storage spaces, but that didn't work, because storage spaces really is just fucking awful. But yeah, I boot up a Windows VM, I do a Crystal Disk Mark on the network share, I get 180 megabytes a second for some reason, like at most. That's on the Windows VM on the Unraid box, which has like a 10 gigabit per second virtual network connection. So then, okay, I fire up Crystal Disk Mark on my workstation, do a test, 900 and some megabytes a second. Which again is like weirdly high, but real world file transfers will be way lower than that. But I'm still getting way higher than I did before, so maybe SMP multi-channel is now kind of working with a single NIC. It's just been so much back and forth, and it's just been such a headache. And this is mostly just to get this out of my head. This is too much of a rambly rant for anyone to provide anything useful. But I think Unraid, I don't know. Maybe I just need to say, okay, you know what? This server is not going to be my main server. This is just going to be for these video projects and this long-term storage. And I overbought my cache SSDs or something like that. I don't know. It's just been so many weird, quirky performance issues that keep flipping back and forth, or things everything I can see from forum posts or from people saying stuff. Oh, this should just work. You shouldn't be having these problems. I get great performance on my Unraid server. And I just have the exact opposite experience in every single possible teeny tiny way. In every single little weird spot, something is off. And I've done like a full fresh config of the USB and everything. Like formatting it and everything. And holy. The other thing, like I'm also just having issues, if you want to shut down or reboot the server, it has to stop the array and it has to sync the file system. Cool, that works well sometimes, but 3 times in the past 2 days, I just have had to hard power off the server, and then that means I have to do another 19-hour parity check because it keeps running it, sync the file system. I try to kill any tasks that are open. They just keep running. So the server is just never gonna stop. And it's like, oh man. I don't know. I don't know why I'm having so many weird, quirky issues with it. And it's super frustrating because it's one of those things where I know I see the potential. It's right there. I can almost grab the potential of how good Unraid is. And I think if I have an offsite backup server, Unraid will be fucking amazing for that because performance is going to be limited to my internet connection. But it really feels like Unraid is, at this point, just for archival stuff. It feels like if you're trying to use it like me as like an everyday file server and have good performance, like the stuff that I'm used to, which isn't even that great. It's just a single NVMe SSD and drive pool. Like it's really thrown together. Unraid just seems, at least for me, to be struggling horribly, and I don't get why. Maybe I had too high expectations before, and maybe part of that is still influencing me with something. I don't know. But at this rate, yeah, it's probably going to be another month before I get do an update on this. Yeah, I don't know. I just figured I'd put an update out there. Unraid so far not working for me. I want to make it work. Maybe I just have to temper my expectations and just forget the whole all my storage is going to be on one thing and I don't have to buy a bunch of drives at once. Maybe this just isn't going to play out how I thought it would. Yeah, I don't know. I really want to love Unraid, but it's so many weird, quirky little things going wrong with it. And I think a fresh start, maybe I just need to step away from it for a good couple of weeks, just entirely and forget about it. And then come back to it later when I have both things and just do another fresh start. Maybe that will help. But yeah, I don't know, there's just everything that seems to have a chance to go wrong. And this is very much a thing that happens in my life no matter what. If there's something that can go wrong in some weird, quirky, unique way to make something I want to do, even if it's just existing, difficult, it will make it incredibly fucking difficult. So yeah. Yeah. One use storage server, not a thing yet. I will still hopefully have it at some point. ZFS probably with True NAS is the way to go, but again, that's a shitload of money. So, probably not going to happen.